Live from the basement, as always, Dishing Swishing Podcast here with Eddie and Joe. After the first week, pretty good success. We got a lot of good feedback from fans and friends and people looking to join what we're doing here. So we're excited to get back down here on this late Thursday evening and give you some more sports.
We still don't have an intro.
No intro, no outro, no.
But hopefully we'll have a really cool guitar intro.
We do have we do have a Twitter account now.
Yes, we do have a Twitter account. It's at DNS Podcast, at uppercase D, lowercase N, uppercase S, _podcast. We live tweet our podcast. We send it out now, so we'll be able to do that. Like Eddie said, we have a bunch of friends who are looking to help us out, so that's good. So we'll have more people on this, and hopefully in the coming weeks we'll be able to improve.
Oh, we're definitely going to improve. We're gonna get hopefully some new equipment here and some audio editing packages when our computers start to work, and we can fix these up and make them look and sound professional. But we'll have just the blog. Rumor has it might be getting some help from some close friends who want to join, so we're definitely looking forward to that. When we have more info on that, we'll share the details. But yeah, I mean, we're very supportive of all the people who listened to it and took time to listen to that 90 minutes of sports junk that we spat at you.
Junk.
But thanks.
I don't think it was junk.
Oh. But we even despite the criticisms from my girlfriend, right? They calling me groggy and calling Joe squeaky. But she said it works for radio because of the high pitch and the low pitch. But no, but seriously, we're thankful that people actually seem to like it. And there's very little criticism, which we're surprised, but which makes them want to do this more. So today was a crazy day in sports. If you're a basketball fan, especially a Knicks fan, well, the Carmelo Anthony news about him shutting it down and taking the surgery today, which by all accounts went successful for his patellar tendon debridement, which I think is just like a cleanup of the knee. The one scary note of that, Dwayne Wade and Danny Granger both had that surgery and then both needed a follow-up surgery to, I guess, continue that process. I guess it wasn't stable or didn't feel right after the first one. And with Melo's age being 31, that's kind of scary because he is the guy that we gave $124 million to and want to build around. That being said, you're now listening to the biggest Melo apologist of all time. And, I was talking with friends with my old college TV show, and they're doing a thing on Carmelo Anthony. And just led me to start thinking and pondering these point of views that people have about Carmelo Anthony and working, at Sirius XM with some of these guys who cover the Knicks. I won't mention any names, but Frank I saw who tweets a lot about the Knicks and says that, and I love Frank, but sometimes he is kind of harsh on them, and I think, Melo's a guy, he's, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he likes to take that surgery early, then he's called, a wuss. Guys like Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, John Starks, anyone from those Knicks teams, Anthony Mason, who hopefully is in good condition now, Charlie Ward, anyone like that. They'll say, those are tough guys, they played through it. That's the reason why they won X amount of games with Jeff Van Gundy and, reached, the finals. On the flip side, if he doesn't take the surgery and he continues to play on it, people will say you have 10 wins. You need to be healthy for next year when the team will be more competitive. Why are you doing this? Well, he can't win here. Yes, it was questionable for him to play in the London game versus the Bucks. Yes, it was questionable to play in the All-Star game and not just play in it, but play a lot of it. But you know what he's about. He wants to build his brand. That's his prerogative. I'm not going to get in his case for that. He's allowed to. He's a superstar. There's a reason why they scheduled the Knicks to play in London. They wanted to show off one of their top franchises, not right now, not this year wins-wise, but overall, a franchise that is popular. And look, they're top in attendance. So you want your star there. And, he just can't win here. And I feel bad for the guy because he's a great guy by all accounts, the media, and he should be well-liked. And he should be more liked by fans in New York. Because do me a favor and type in Carmelo Anthony on Google and look at his pro basketball his reference stats. His career high in points came with the Knicks. His career high in rebounds came with the Knicks. This year he's averaging 24 points. He's no slouch. You got a superstar. It's hard to find a guy who can score the way he does. Whether it's the three ball, in the post, getting to the rim, he does it all. And I just think he's not getting the fair treatment here. He's not played with a great team. You can argue the best player, who was it? Chauncey Billups in Denver, maybe. Nene. I mean, come on. Those aren't. If those are your second best players, your team's not going to do very well. So hopefully this year with the draft, if it's Okafor, if it's Towns, Moutier, what have you, we have money and for free agents. We'll see what happens. And I'll have to get on with that because a guy who the Knicks were going to target probably looks like they're not going to get him anymore. But I just think that it's a really rough season for Carmelo Anthony because he's just not going to come out here a winner no matter what he does. And I'm just throwing out that I feel for you, Carmelo. I'm a big fan of yours, so anytime you want to hop on here and share your thoughts, you have someone fighting for you in your corner. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. My partner in crime here, but
well, it's funny. We either really agree on something or we really disagree.
That is true.
And I think
that is true.
There's really no middle ground.
There's no middle ground. There's no black. It's very black or white with us. No gray.
And I've always been a fan of Carmelo Anthony.
As you should.
As you should. And there's nothing wrong with that. I completely agree with everything that you just said. I think the media does unfairly scrutinize him at times, and I do think Isola is hard on him.
Oh, he's hard. I mean, he's hard on everyone.
He's hard on everybody. But he's in particular.
In fairness to Frankie Isola, I know for a fact that he loves Carmelo Anthony. He's a big fan of Carmelo Anthony. He's one guy that always says he's a great guy, like he has his back. But continue, just letting that be known. I'm not slamming Frank at all. I love working with Frank.
I think one of my biggest problems that I have with Carmelo Anthony is not anything that has to do with him as a player or him in regards to the media. Because I think the media at times unfairly scrutinizes a lot of players.
Sure.
It's very hard to win.
Right.
And in the NBA, there's probably been the least amount of parity of any of the four sports for the last 30 years.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, I'm not going to get on him. But I think the biggest problem that I have personally with Carmelo Anthony is the public's perception of him. Because, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of Knicks fans out there who love Carmelo Anthony. But I believe a lot of what a casual basketball fan will say, and is it kind of true in a way? Sure. He's handicapped because he plays a position that historically hasn't really won a lot.
But what is his position? Because he plays a stretch four, he plays a three, but he handles the ball. He's very similar to what LeBron does.
He could be a point forward, or he could be a really, really good small ball four.
He has a skill set. He has a skill set that's so good it puts him in a weird spot because he can play the post better than most players. He can play run the perimeter better than most players, and he gets to the rim better than most players. So it's like he's at fault basically for having a very complete game.
No, he's at fault for having a very, very complete game, and he plays a premium position because if you look at the NBA right now and you look at around, there are a lot of really good young tweener 2-3s.
A lot of positionless guys.
A lot of DeMar DeRozans in this league. Nobody has a really set position anymore. And you look at a guy like Josh Smith. He's a hybrid 3-4, but Detroit signed him to be a 3, and guess what? That team was awful. It stunk for the first half. Smith leaves. He goes to Houston. Probably goes to a little bit of a better situation. And Houston's still good, and Detroit all of a sudden improves. So a lot of that, it's all about fit, too. But going back to Carmelo Anthony and public perception, I feel like a lot of people haven't really gotten over this whole. I don't think he's immature. I don't think he's a diva, like a prima donna diva in any way.
No, not at all.
But I feel like a lot of people have this perception of him, and a lot of people unfairly criticize him because he's like you said before, that he doesn't win. But if you look at the NBA as a whole, a lot of these guys have never won anything.
No, Kevin Durant has never won.
Right, Kevin Durant has never won.
Kevin Durant came out to the media that are not his friends. He doesn't want to get to know any of them.
Right, that is correct.
When has Carmelo Anthony ever said anything close to that?
If you look at Melo's career historically, since he came into the league in 2003, the two best teams that he played on both made it past the first round of the playoffs. And it's very hard getting past the first round of the playoffs. Usually the bad teams just...
Chris Paul hasn't.
They're hindered from the very beginning. Paul has never gone past the second round either, by the way. But he doesn't get unfairly criticized like Melo.
Exactly. He's in Allstate commercials, and he's a nice guy. But
he's a nice guy.
Melo hasn't done anything wrong.
Isn't Chris Paul the president of the NBAPA too?
He is the president, and LeBron is his new right hand man.
He has that reputation. Like I said, when you look at what Carmelo did, and especially because the article came out about how he wants to be this worldly person, he wants to be looked back as a cultural icon.
Right.
A lot of people use that against Carmelo Anthony. And then you take into account you factor in the fact that he married Lala. You take account remember the incident in Madison Square Garden, the whole sucker punch incident. You take all this into account, and a lot of people think a lot of people do forget about that, but a lot of people take this into account, and they have this perception of him that's simply untrue. When I look at Carmelo Anthony, I look at a kid who was a freshman at Syracuse, took his team and won a national championship. I look at the guy who was drafted into the NBA, who remembered where he came from, and within a couple of years after he graduated Syracuse, what did he do? He built Syracuse basketball a practice facility. How many players can you say personally go back and donate to their school and do as much as he does? He has gone since he's moved to New York. He has put a lot of money forward into putting it into city projects, if you will, looking to build basketball courts. I think around like downtown Brooklyn and that area specifically.
He's done one in Chelsea Piers, and I'm not sure he's helped out his ball. You were like born in Brooklyn, grew up in Baltimore. I'm not sure he's done in Baltimore, but you're right. Off the top of my head, I can't. I mean,
but he's had these endeavors where he's put money into giving back to the community.
Absolutely.
So my problem is that when people say like Carmelo Anthony is this. Not necessarily cancerous, toxic person. They don't really go that far.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. But when people have this negative perception about Carmelo Anthony, it really, really ticks me off.
Oh, it makes me irate.
It's the furthest thing from the truth. We are so lucky to have a player about Carmelo Anthony. And if you ask me again, if I would do the trade again, 10 times out of 10, I would do the trade.
100%.
Right.
Frank also tweeted out that the records of the Nuggets and the Knicks, since that trade, the Nuggets actually have a better record. But that being said, the players...
Well, the Nuggets had that one really good season.
Yeah, but the players that were swapped were not even close to that. And I touched on Chris Paul. Chris Paul played on teams with Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. You have 6 Men of the Year and Jamal Crawford. Where have they gone? Nowhere. There's not a word said about him. Kevin Durant plays with Russell Westbrook. Played with James Harden. Played with Serge Ibaka. Decent bench role players there. Scott Brooks, good coach. Not a word said about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant also, throwing it out there, he was going to get married, ended his marriage with his wife when he got his contract. And I'm not picking on him or saying that, there's something wrong. I don't know what happened. All I'm saying is that something did happen. He had off-the-court issues. He had something that, that's something that Melo never had. By all accounts, Melo has a great relationship with his wife. And just because they're in the media does not mean they're bad people. Kevin Durant also, just like I just said, came out, attacking the media, getting pissed at them for whatever reason, asking them questions. Obviously the guy's frustrated with a tough season, being injured. I get that. But what's going to happen when you want a job in 10 years and no one in the media is going to want to hire you because you're a jerk? But no one gets on his case whatsoever because they're apologists for him. They're apologists for these guys. Why Melo's attacked? Because is it because he plays in New York? I have no idea. Because the Knicks it's funny bashing the Knicks. Sure, it is funny. They're run by the worst guy in sports. James Harden is the worst guy in sports. But that's not Melo's fault. It's not Melo's fault he deserved the max contract. I don't get the treatment by him. He is doing everything what these other players are doing. These guys, like I said, like Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, he's doing what they're doing. He's worth his contract, just like they're worth their contract. They end up in the same spot where he is, which is not holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy, and he's the only one that gets slammed. He's the only one that gets criticized if he took his surgery after the All-Star game because he was the host. He's the only one to get slammed if he wasn't taking his surgery and people were saying, why isn't he taking it? They actually have 10 wins. I don't get the rationale of these people who call into shows and say this. I don't get the rationale of writers and stuff who just tear into him because he hasn't done nothing to deserve it. And he's handled like a true professional. He's not said a word about it. Was it questionable to go and say about the Chicago thing and let it be known that he was kind of thinking more about Chicago, but his heart? But again, he signed the contract to play in New York, to wear blue and orange.
That's why he forced the trade to New York. He always wanted to come here, and he wants to win here.
And I don't blame him for thinking about Chicago. Hell, I would have too.
What he said was honest.
It was honest. Anyone would have thought of it. The same exact thing.
Right.
So
that's why I don't have a problem with it.
And like I said, he ended up here. He ended up here on a 10-win team. Now they need surgery. So, I don't know. We can end my rant there. I don't want to make the short show about Melo because he's only really half of today's NBA news. But I just don't get. Oh no, actually, I'm lying to you. I want to keep continuing because this is not solely on him. This is more into the trade stuff, but more of the Knicks front office issues. And that's dealing with Phil Jackson and the signings that he's made. You don't think that if the Tyson Chandler trade wasn't made in the offseason, he might have had a better season right now. They might have had or could have used him as a trade chip right now to have a better team. Like he gets blamed that Melo comes in here and is not winning, and people automatically say is his fault, and they pin it on him. And I think the problem with a lot of fans, and this could be because they're uninformed, and I think I'll give media members credit for not blaming this kind of stuff because they know the difference. But a lot of fans think, who was in the same draft class as Carmelo Anthony that year?
A guy by the name of LeBron James.
Exactly.
I've never heard of him.
Right. LeBron James. And people assume they hold them in the same level and they hold them they're the same person because LeBron could take a Cavs team. I'm going way back. The Cavs team versus was the Spurs that year when he's basically alone. Right. Because he could do that. They're saying, well, why can't Melo do it? Because Melo did in college, like Joe brought up before. College is not the pro game. And I think that the fans think, well, if he did it, why can't Melo did it? And then who's another guy in the draft class that also did the same thing? Well, he wasn't alone. He's with Shaquille O'Neal, but Dwayne Wade also did that. So I think that's the issue that people, the basketball fans, see that if Melo didn't do it, but Wade and LeBron, Wade half did it, and LeBron did it, and then now LeBron won a few titles, and Wade won a few titles, and Bosh, another guy from the draft class, also came down there and won a few titles.
But you see, the difference is he couldn't do it as a lead banana. See,
well, yeah.
LeBron and Dwayne Wade, they did it as the best players on the best teams.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh had to come and be the third best player on a really good team.
Right. So I think a thing with his criticism, it comes from people wishing that he could do it alone. And he's not that player. First of all, I can't really think of teams that have done it with one star player alone, really besides Dirk.
That was the last time it happened.
And that team was pretty bad.
And what's special about that is that, in particular, especially players like Dirk, especially stretch fours.
That guy is underrated.
Historically, he's massively underrated. But, Dirk is in a situation. He's a natural power forward. But he's probably the one of the all-time great stretch forwards. I mean, you look at his career historically. You look at his against, like, Rick Barry's and, like, Pete Maravich's and all these guys. Even a guy like Karl Malone. Guys who were able to, like, step out a little bit, knock down a shot. Guys who are able to space the floor a little bit. Mm-hmm. When you look at Dirk's career in comparison to everybody else, it's phenomenal. But with those players, you also have to build the right team around them. You have to build a special team. And Melo's probably only had a really good team to do that with maybe 3 or 4 times in his career.
And that's pushing it, in my opinion.
Right. And now we're in a situation now where we're completely we basically blew up the building. Stadium got knocked down. And now he's really we're really going to have an opportunity. Like these next 2 years are going to be very, very telling. I don't think Rome was built in a day, but right. I think 2 years from now we may be looking at this situation a whole lot differently.
Well, I think so too. That was the point I was getting at with the whole the trade in the offseason, the Tyson Chandler trade. I think they pulled the trigger on that a little too quick, just because of you see now the rim protector is a hot commodity. So Mazda go for 2 picks, 2 firsts at that. I'm forgetting a couple other. Who else is out there? But regardless, Tyson Chandler's had a great season so far. And I'm not sure if there was chemistry issues with Melo. That was a whole rumor going around. I mean, their lockers were next to each other. I think Tyson Chandler had personal issues that year. I know he had like a sick mother and other things going on. He was injured. But there was no reason why he couldn't have come healthy with a new coach, a new era, and been helpful to this team, made the team a little bit better. Because bringing on Calderon has not helped. He's been awful. He's been literally one of the worst point guards in the league, and it's another guy we have to pay. And having an expiring contract in Chandler, besides the fact that he was good as a player, he expires. So I think that was a huge gaffe, a huge first screw up that Phil Jackson made. But I think that's the one, and going forward, that's gonna hurt them. That being said, there is money. That being said, there is a top pick. Hopefully, David Stern still could have some ties with Adam Silver and other guys in the league and rig it again to give us our current the new Patrick Ewing, and hopefully that's Towns or Okafor. But there was something that I wanted to read that you posted on Facebook to get into our next topic of the NBA. I'm just going to read some names here, and we'll start.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Kyle Lowry, Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving, Brandon Jennings, John Wall, Jeff Teague, Drew Holiday, Tony Parker, Mike Conley Jr., Russell Westbrook, Ty Lawson, Damian Lillard, Eric Bledsoe, Chris Paul, and Stephen Curry. That doesn't include a declining Darren Williams, Ricky Rubio, Rajon Rondo, and Brandon Knight. And those are all the people that Joe thought were better than Goran Dragic, who today was traded for, what was it, first-round pick, Sean Williams.
Danny Granger. Hold on, I gotta double-check this.
I don't even care about the specifics.
2 first-round picks.
Oh, it was 2.
Yeah, they had to give the second one. And Norris Cole.
Norris Cole.
Yes, and Justin Hamilton.
Wow, okay.
So Goran and Zoran.
So
the brothers. Both brothers went. Essentially, Granger, not really much to do anymore.
I mean, they gave up 2 picks, but they still kept Luol Deng, and they still have, they have Bosch, and they have Wade, they have a guy running the point.
Now they have Whitedale as a
Pat Riley again.
Birdman's still the energy, big off the bench who can rebound.
Right.
They keep Shabazz Napier and Mario Chalmers, hoping that one of them could catch fire. I like Norris Cole a lot. I would have preferred them to maybe try to deal Napier away because I don't know if he's ever going to fit as an NBA, backup.
The guy who LeBron wanted to.
Yeah. Goes to show you what his opinion is. But, yeah, I like Norris Cole. He's going to be the 4th or 5th guard in Phoenix anyway now, so it doesn't really matter. Sean Williams, former Knick great, as Crawford could attest to. Justin Hamilton, he's a career journeyman, 11th man forward. That's nothing. And the 2 first-round picks are most likely going to be between 20 and 30. Well, I mean, the Heat right now, they're still under 500 now. So
I'm not.
Well, I think right now, I believe they're sitting in 8th. I don't know.
They're in the playoffs. I know that. Right. Yeah, they probably are under 500 because the lower half of the East is. Yeah.
The East is atrocious.
But I think this trade actually makes them dangerous.
No, I think the trade makes them dangerous too. I think they'll get hot in the second half of the season, finish slightly above 500.
Right.
They'll finish as the 7th or 8th team, and nobody will want to play them in the first round.
Well, I like what you're doing right now because you're trying to draw attention away from your idiotic statement that you made that drew a lot of attention on social media.
I still stand by my argument.
And explain to our listeners what your argument is.
Okay. I believe Goran Dragic was a good player before he went to Phoenix, and he showed that, especially in Houston. He was a very good player, and one of the things that set Dragic apart was that he was always a very efficient player.
Yeah.
So he was always under the radar. Then he went to Phoenix, and Phoenix, coached by Jeff Hornacek, runs a terrific offense for the talent that they have there with Eric Bledsoe. Isaiah Thomas was not on the trade today, but we'll get into that. With Goran Dragic. Last year they had Channing Frye and the Morris twins, so they were able to run essentially a 3 point guard kind of set offense, and they run a lot of pick and rolls, and they're able to use their size disadvantage to an actual advantage because they have all these slashing point guards who are able to beat players off the dribble. They're able to get into the lane, and they'll either finish or they'll kick it out, and somebody else will restart the merry-go-round. But what also makes them special is that because they were so young, they were able to just run up and down the court the entire time, and they used their youth to their advantage to 48 wins last year. This year, I thought they were going to, not fall off a cliff, but I thought they were kind of going to tread water a little bit, probably go back to being a 500 team or close to below, average team, and they've been right in the mix for the Western Conference 8 seed along with the Pelicans and the Thunder. But going back to the Dragic argument, he's a very efficient guard. He's a very good point guard. However, I think right now the NBA has seen an influx of good point guards because that is the way the game is going.
No, it's the best ever.
It is the best time for point guards in the history of the league, and that is the way the game is going. The game is going to a more fast-paced, up-tempo game, a lot of stretching of the floor. A lot of players can knock down these threes, so one of the key characteristics that are similar to a lot of good teams is that they have good point guards. Now, I've always believed in the philosophy of building your team from the inside out. I would like to essentially build my team with the center, with the rim protector, and then work from there. So I have my list on Facebook of all the players who I thought were better than Goran Dragic. And not to take anything away, one thing that I probably underestimated a lot is how good Dragic was last year in Phoenix. He was third-team All-NBA.
Thank you.
Bill Simmons raves about him and how he voted him second-team All-NBA. But to be honest with you, he was really that good. And he was probably the best player on the team that won 48 games that came out of nowhere in the Western Conference last year. So my main argument is that I believe Dragic is a good player who went into the perfect situation where they got the most out of him, and he became great.
I don't think they got the most
and
out of him.
I think he had one career season, and I think he's been very good this year. Not to underestimate what he's done this year. He's been an efficient player this year. Hasn't been as good as he was last year.
Because he has a third guard now. He has to deal with Isaiah Thomas as well, besides Eric Bledsoe. Right. If you don't, he would have had per game, he's not that much off. He's still averaging 16 points, which is the second highest career besides last year, which was 20. He's averaging, he was basically 5.9 assists last year when he's 13 all. He's 4 this year. His highest actually was 7.
One of the other arguments that this came down to was, do I think Goran Dragic is a max player?
But continue.
There were rumors, especially with Mark Stein and a lot of ESPN guys were tweeting this out about how teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Heat were the most interested, and the Celtics too. I'm sorry, those 4 teams were the most interested, and that he could possibly get a max contract next year in free agency. A max contract being 4 years, $80 million, which would essentially be $20 million a year. So I don't think Dragic is a max player. I believe a max player should go to your best player on your team or somebody who can be your best player on your team. And if you have the roster building method down pat, you could probably get away with 2 max guys. Do I think Dragic could be the best player or the second best player on a title contending team? I don't think so. However, I think he's really good. So I said fairly, that the most I would give him would be 4 years, somewhere in the ballpark of $60 to $64 million, and that is with the cap going up. And the cap is going to skyrocket 2 years from now. So these contracts are probably going to be, this argument's going to probably be minuscule in the grand scheme of things because the money's going to go up. But right now, at this very moment, I do not think he's worth more than $64 million a year. And $64 million a year comes down to $16 million a year. And that's really pushing it for me. But I kind of eased up at the end. Ideally, I think he's a $15 million player for 4 years, $60 million on the open market. And I think you can contend with him as your third or fourth best player. But I don't want to pay him like he's our second best player. What team is going to have
an All-NBA player as their fourth best player?
He made a third All-NBA team once.
But that was his first year. Do you know how many games started he had before that year? Okay, rookie year 1, next year 2, next year 5, next year 2, next year 3, next year 28. That was the most games they ever. Oh no, why is it highlighted? Well, whatever. Game started again. The 2012-2013 season, the season where he rejoined the Suns after going to Houston. 77. Last year, All-NBA team. 75 games. This year, thus far, 52 games with the Phoenix Suns, and the rest of the season we play with the Miami Heat. He barely played in his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, even 6th year, only 28 games. The first 6 years of his career, he's barely played. He's 28 years old now. He has no mileage on his legs. No mileage. And his efficiency is off the charts. Shooting 47, 46, 44, 50 last year, and 50 again this year. 50% from the field. The argument that I don't want to make this a whole Knicks show, but the argument was that the Knicks haven't had a point guard since probably Stephon Marbury, and he wasn't even that good here. So, what? John Starks, kind of a 2-guard. He shot you in a game, also shot you out of a game. People don't realize he's probably just as bad as J.R. Smith, if not worse. I can't think of the last legit point guard the Knicks had around here. But for argument's sake, we'll say we traded for Stephon Marbury. So it's still, a decade ago? For all intents and purposes, Marc Gasol's going to resign in Memphis. Well, Marc Gasol just resign in Portland. Do you agree with that?
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
Who would be the next best unrestricted free agent on the market?
Potentially unrestricted free agent. I gotta think.
Because Jimmy Butler's not.
Jimmy Butler.
I'll just throw names out there. I'm not.
If Jimmy Butler were to hit the open market,
but
I would throw him the max.
He's restricted, and I disagree with you. I think Jimmy Butler is far less important for the Knicks to go get than a Goran Dragic.
Okay.
This Wesley Matthews, Tobias Harris, Reggie Jackson, who you said you wanted to give money to. Reggie Jackson, by the way, came out once. He's asking for $14 million a year. Would you rather
that's
pay?
Absurd.
That's
nuts.
But I don't know what you think's going to happen with the CBA changing and the TV deal coming in. These contracts aren't going to be. I'm not saying he's right, but I'm saying these contracts aren't going to be like that. You're going to get paid. You don't get paid for what you will do. You get paid for what you've done. You've been a proponent of always saying that.
Right.
When you're all NBA, you're going to want that. He's a guy who's going to come. He's going to make Miami a legit playoff team. He's a good, efficient point guard who does everything you need. What was the trade that the Knicks made that I just talked about in the offseason? Who did they go get? Who was the guy they traded Chandler for, the main piece? Jose Calderon.
Right.
Why? Because they're in a triangle offense, because they want a point guard who could shoot the ball and could make the pass when necessary, but more effectively shoot. Especially the deep two, the worst shot in basketball. Well, that's what the triangle runs. This is the team I root for. Goran Dragic shoots 50% from the field. Half of his shots go in. Is he not the perfect player for the triangle offense?
He's a very good player for the triangle offense. I think he's a very good fit here.
So what is the discrepancy?
My discrepancy is I don't want to pay him as much as he's asking.
The Knicks have money. So who do you want to throw money at? Wesley Matthews? Is it Draymond Green? Is it Kawhi Leonard? Is it?
Well, I love Draymond Green too.
How does he help this Knicks team get better? Draymond Green screams to me of a player who will come to a struggling Knicks team and just not be worth the contract. He's flourishing in Golden State because you know why? Golden State has Steph Curry. It has Clay Matthews, Freudian slip. They have Andrew Bogut and David Lee, when healthy, are very good interior players. They have a good deep bench. I'm forgetting a bunch of guys. Like I've watched plenty of Golden State games. Like they have Maurice Spates come off the bench and filled him with the injuries, and he was great. Like he flirted with all-star numbers during certain stretches. Draymond Green is not going to come to the Knicks and make them. He's not going to be a game changer. Same thing with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, great defender. Probably can't think of a guy who shuts down LeBron better than Kawhi Leonard. Again, playing on a team with 3 Hall of Famers. He's not going to come in and do it. Jimmy Butler, I don't know, different story. Jimmy Butler's young. Jimmy Butler's his plays got better literally every year he's been in the league. He's a guy who's more than doubled his points per game average. But and he plays great defense too. That I have no. Jimmy Butler is a guy I look at. Still don't think he's a better fit than Goran Dragic here because the Knicks need a point guard. Because Jimmy Butler is not a point guard. And you have Melo, who is going to be the number one scorer anyway. Not that Jimmy Butler needs to do that, and not that he really, the main guy, offensive threat, is still Derrick Rose on Chicago. Even though it shouldn't be. But so I'm not against Jimmy Butler. Again, though, he's a restricted free agent, so I don't think he's in the conversation. I mean, Wesley Matthews, great 3-point shooter. Is he the guy you want over Goran Dragic? You'd be crazy to say yes. You'd be crazy to say that Reggie Jackson is too. If Reggie Jackson said, I'll come in for 6, 7, 8, sure. What planet is Reggie Jackson going to... He talked his way out of Oklahoma. What planet is going to agree to $7, $8 million a year because Joe Calabria said so? He's not going to. I'm going to break the news to you. He's not going to.
No, of course not. He's going to ask for the move. So
I'm still waiting for a player. I'm still waiting for the player the Knicks need to spend money on. Because then if your next argument is don't spend money this offseason, then I'm going to tell you that then everyone needs to be fired in the Knicks organization. Every single player needs to go. Because the plan was to win this year, and then midway through they realized, oh crap, we're not going to win, so let's rebuild for next year. If you hold the money next year and you sit there another 12, what will happen if the Knicks win another 15 games next year?
Melo will probably ask out. He'll probably get dealt.
Jackson's gone. Fisher's gone.
I don't know about Jackson being gone.
If the Knicks win 10 games this year, 15 games 2 years in a row, if they can't bring in one big player.
We'll have the draft, and I'm sure we'll be able to learn some good. Even if we don't get the biggest free agent out there, we'll be able. But
who do you want to waste money on that's not going to help this team win?
You know how I feel on a guy like Paul Millsap.
A 31-year-old Paul Millsap.
Well, he'd only be here for 3 years. He'll probably sign a 3-4 year deal like David West did.
And you're
probably not going to ask for the moon in terms of salary.
I disagree with that. He's playing the top team in the East.
Well, everybody's going to ask for the most money. That's the point of free agency.
Wasn't he an All-Star this year?
Yes, he was an All-Star this year. He's a very good player. The fact that you think he's not
going to ask for the moon is absurd. These players are going to want more money because there's more money out there now because of the CBA and because of the TV deal. Who's a better fit, Paul Millsap or Goran Dragic? Exactly, Joe. The silence is deafening. I'm making my case right now. Look, it's one thing if you don't think he's an elite.
I have a problem.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I have a problem paying with him.
I'm not saying you're wrong for saying Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul or Dame Lillard
are better.
I was not arguing you with that.
No, your main argument is that we need a point guard, and I agree with that.
There's no guy out there who fits the mold in him, and especially a guy who fits. This is not some kind of and Street Bowl player like a Kyrie Irving, who I don't really like his game, or somebody who's going to be streaky. I mean, you put Brennan Jennings on that list, like a guy who cannot shoot the ball. The Knicks need a guy who does not chuck. Melo, I love you. He chucks sometimes. J.R. Smith, as funny as he was, chucked the ball sometimes. And they, that's the reason why we struggle, except for the 1 year that they won 54 games. Dragic makes the most sense out of any player to ever be in the market, potentially, for the Knicks. And I think it comes in a perfect year. If you want to wait until, do you feel like Kevin Love's going to be, say Cleveland has a
I don't want anything to do with Love. I think Love is massively overrated.
But do you think, are you really going to be confident in going after a guy like Kevin Durant? We all know, all Knicks fans know how hard it is to go for the number one, top free agent and not land him when LeBron did that. Like, you know how tough that is. We got Amari Stoudemire this year. Where is Amari Stoudemire right now? He's down in Dallas. So, I just think the guy like Dragic, who said the Knicks played the Suns before Christmas, and he said that he would like to play here.
I mean, who wouldn't like to play in New York?
Well, LeBron also said it too over the All-Star game. So
He
said that it's the Mecca, and he said sorry to Cleveland fans, but he'd love to play 82 games here because apparently the Knicks only have home games. But and if LeBron, let me say this: if LeBron hops out and wants to come join the Knicks, I'm all for that. He's a better fit than Goran Dragic, but I'm not trying to get crazy. My point is that I don't think it's a good idea to go into. I think the worst case scenario for the Knicks is to hold on to their money and do nothing.
No, the worst case scenario is if they get like the 4th pick in the draft. Then they're screwed.
I don't think it's that.
Then they're gonna end up trading the pick and then trying to get somebody in free agency and like going for the big.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm not really in love with any top player in this draft. I think Okafor. I think Town will be better than Okafor. I like Okafor still. I think Moody will be a good player. I know people are really high on D'Angelo Russell now. I heard he's recruiting up. So there are 4. There's a couple other guys too who people like. I'm not that in touch with the college game. I'll be honest with you, I've only really watched Kentucky and Duke games for those 2 players. I think it's pretty obvious the Knicks will go the route of the big man. I'm hoping their odds being so bad they will get a top 2 pick. That being said, if they go to 4 and some team is dangling a player, for the top pick, Russell Westbrook, it's if him and Durant don't get along that well, I heard he wants to go to LA because he's a UCLA guy. If we go to they're a team that makes really bad moves. They traded James Harden for crap.
Yeah.
If you dangle a top 5 pick at them plus, you never. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not. But if a trade comes across like that, you got to do it, and you have money to sign another guy. I'm not opposed to that. I'm saying I think it's bad. If people could argue on this, you could say that no, if there's no one out there to get, don't overspend, save the money for next season. I don't think it's in the Knicks' best interest to lose this poorly 2 seasons in a row. That's just how I feel. I don't think it's good for morale.
Yeah,
I think this season was bad enough. You see how bad the tabloids are. You see how bad the back pages of the newspapers are. You see how bad they get ripped every which way in the airwaves, TV, print, what have you. It's not good for the Knicks to have less than 20 wins 2 years in a row. I don't think it does anyone good. Melo's not getting any younger, especially coming off his knee surgery. So I'm all for using the money wisely on a player that fits a need. And that, to me, is a guard if you're going to run a triangle offense. I'm not opposed to bidding either. If Millsap wants to come in here for not a huge salary, sure. He's Carmelo Anthony's age. That's you have your 2 best players are now on the wrong side of 30. At least Rodgers is 28, and he plays a good position, and he has no mileage on his legs.
Dragic was only the headliner of this wild NBA deadline day.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, run a call by me, and we'll go through some of them.
We'll go through the major ones first, and then we'll. Kevin Garnett going back to Minnesota to finish out his career for Thaddeus Young.
That's the only thing I think about is the him doing the "I'm coming home" video, but just cursing.
It's classic. Yeah. All right. We should probably hit on quick winner and loser of each deal.
Sure.
I mean, this is a deal. I think it's a win for both teams. Garnett finished his career in Minnesota.
No, I think it's a loser for him. I think if he went to a team like the Clippers, something needs to make a move, or maybe the Warriors, got another big man. He's good in the locker room.
Well, the Clippers have always been linked to him because of their link to Doc.
Right. And if you play him, sparingly, I think he'll be good. I'm not sure if some teams are actually afraid of his intensity, but I think he's good for any team. He's a shell of himself, but he still has size. You can't teach size.
Well, I like the deal for Minnesota because obviously he'll re-sign at a smaller contract, and it's basically all about
he'll have a front office job.
It's about locker room leadership, job after playing basketball, and cap space. That young, solid player, good contract, good player. Him and Plumlee up front in the next couple of years. Brooklyn's trying to remake their team on the fly. I can't say anything bad about that deal. I thought it was solid.
Well, they moved the one guy whose contract hurt them the least, and then they kept Joe Johnson and Deron Williams. So, I think Brooklyn is a team that's really they don't get as much crap as the Knicks do, and they're probably in way worse shape. At least the Knicks have money.
They're definitely in worse shape. And next year is when Poop is going to hit the fan.
Yeah, big time.
The first deal made during the day, the Nuggets received a bunch of B pieces. Bust Thomas Robinson. I don't know if he's still a bust, but I'm just referring to him as a bust because this is the second trade he's been in the last year. And there's probably very little hope left in his career. And I thought he was going to be a solid player coming out of college.
I liked him a lot.
I didn't think he was going to be an effective starter, but I thought he would be like
Kansas. He's size. He's a strong guy. I thought
like Markieff Morris. That's the kind of career I thought he would have. But anyway, a bunch of those pieces and a first and second round pick to Denver for Aaron Afflalo.
Denver wanted to get rid of Ty Lawson because he doesn't get along with Brian Shaw, and they traded Afflalo instead. It's good for Portland to get someone to help out Dame Lillard. I thought they could have used more of a guy either to spot Aldridge because of his injury, or a more wing type player. But I guess isn't it?
Well, Nicholas Batum's not really having a great season, and Afflalo is basically one of those DeMar DeRozans. Doesn't have a natural position, but he's probably natural shooting guard, natural two. Can play the three. Can kind of play small forward in a small lineup. I love the deal for Portland. I think it was a smart move. None of those players will probably amount to anything except maybe the first round pick. So really can't get too much into that. The major deal that sent Reggie Jackson to Detroit, Enes Kanter to Oklahoma City, and who went to Utah.
You don't want the page open? I don't know.
No, it doesn't have it under here. I'm trying to think who went to Utah.
It had to be someone from Detroit.
Oh, Kyle Singler.
Right.
Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, so people were making a joke. They trade all their white players. That trade...
It's not racist.
That trade... what was I thinking about that trade? I think Oklahoma City's bench is really good now, especially up front. You have McGarry, Kanter, Ibaka.
Oh, and DJ Augustine also went to the Thunder.
And he used to play at Texas with Kevin Durant. So you have another guy. And Kevin Durant hated Reggie Jackson. Apparently, I heard they didn't get along. Kevin Durant doesn't get along with Russell Westbrook either. So I don't know if it's a coincidence or I don't know if Kevin Durant's a guy that people can get along with. But again, someone doesn't get criticized enough, but Melo does. I'll have to go back to that. But what was I saying? McGarry, Kanter, Steven Adams, Serge Ibaka. That's pretty good up front. That was a good move for them to make a push now. You see the Suns. The Suns, I think, are going to get worse because Dragic was their best player, and Thunder making a good move, adding more size. I think that's really good for them. They're going to be that's a tough. If they're an 8 seed, man, you don't want to play them in the first round.
I said this before to a bunch of other friends. If we get a 1-8 Golden State Oklahoma City matchup, they're going to be very upset. Because I think those are 2 of the 3 or 4 definitive best teams in the West.
There's not a single easy matchup in the West. There's no real upset, I think. I'm not surprised by any team wins. I think the worst team in the Western Conference that's going to be in the playoffs is probably Los Angeles.
I think the Clippers are the worst team, too.
I don't
think they have the makeup.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and
it's odd because I feel like Blake's a really good player. Chris Paul's a very good player.
He was starting the MVP last year.
Doc's a great coach. I don't know what's missing.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, something.
The locker room.
There's a square pegging around the hole.
That team needed Kevin Garnett to come in there and curse you out and stare at you and just be his
and toughen him up. Right?
Yeah, they needed something like that.
Right.
I think Chris Paul's a great guy and a good leader. I don't think Chris Paul is mean enough. If that makes sense.
I think Blake is fake mean. You know what I mean?
I think
he comes off as a tough player, and I think he is a tough player to play. I just don't think he has that.
I heard people say he's a whiner on the court. I think his head's in the clouds. I'm not really a big fan of that team. They're the easiest team to beat in the first round. What are they now? The 4 or the 5 seed? Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't even know. But anyway, I think the weaker teams are the Rockets, the Clippers, and the Blazers. And I still think the Rockets and the Blazers are much better. I mean, the Rockets made a couple good moves today, and I mean the Blazers made a good move too. So I think by far the Clippers are the worst team in the West.
Brandon Knight going to the Phoenix,
Brandon Knight
replacing Goran Dragic.
Brandon Knight better than Goran Dragic.
He's averaging 17.8 points a game this year, and side by side statistic on SportsCenter before had Knight was better per. Not that I don't think that really means anything.
I think efficiency matters. To an extent, but
Brandon Knight's having probably his career season.
Yeah,
which is odd why Milwaukee dealt him, but
because Milwaukee they got MCW and they think he's going to be a better player than long term than Brandon Knight will be, because Brandon Knight kind of was like iffy early on. If you were comparing Dragic to Brandon Knight side by side, I mean, Dragic again is playing with two other point guards and the ball out of his hands. I think Knight's going to go in a situation where there's no more Thomas, there's no more Dragic. Bledsoe could play more of a 2, even though he'll want the ball. If he could somehow coexist with him, then good. I don't know why the Suns keep on trading guards and not looking for a bigger, wingmen.
Well, they have the Morris twins.
But they're more like the 4. They're both kind of like 6 on. They're kind of big. They're not really athletic. They don't play the 3.
They're missing. They're a team that's missing a DeMar DeRozan.
Right. DeMar DeRozan could
they're a team that needs that. Yeah. So MCW, Tyler Ennis and Miles Plumlee went to Milwaukee. Kind of a small quantity over quality kind of deal, because Knight is obviously the better player now. But I think MCW is good.
That to me, he's had a really, really bad season the year after when he was good. I mean, he's not.
But I think he's
done nothing right. But he's bigger and he's athletic. I think that's the reason what Milwaukee saw in them. And that to me, I know before the show we were talking about this. If we want to do the armchair GM thing or whatever, but we don't have to do that. But I could just sit here and say, well, as an armchair GM, I could say if I was Sam Hinkie, I wouldn't have made that trade. I don't think people realize how weird this Philadelphia 76ers organization, literally, what is their plan? What is their strategy? You draft, look at, they have Drew Holiday, good player, traded him away. Next guy they drafted up was Evan Turner, second pick, now in Boston. They draft Nerlens Noel, missed a year or whatever. MCW had him for a year. Was he rookie? He was rookie of the year last year, wasn't he?
MCW.
Yeah, rookie of the year last year. Traded him away. Now KJ McNally is a guy who's off for the rookie of the year. Had a pretty good season. Traded him away. I mean, they keep
accumulating these picks.
You drafted Joel Embiid, who has not played, but he's gained weight by all accounts, and he's you don't know what his histories are going to be. Nerlens Noel, I mean, you kind of see what his ceiling is. He's not a very good offensive player. So, at what point do the Sixers say these are our core guys we're going to build around? Because you've drafted and traded away literally every single one. And if they drafted, say if they get a top pick this draft and they get Okafor Towns, well, you're not going to have Noel, Okafor, and Embiid. You're not going to keep all 3, so one of them is going. When do they realize they keep screwing up? This has been a huge black mark on the NBA, I think, for a team that was tanking on purpose but they're trading away all the guys they're supposed to build around. It's one thing the Knicks are tanking. The Knicks weren't going to build around any of the guys that they weren't building around Paolo Prigioni. They're not building around Langston Galloway or Lou Amundsen. The Sixers could have built around Drew Holiday. They could have built around, turned it around kind of, a bit in Boston.
Drew Holiday was an all-star.
Right. They could, they could have built around, Michael Carter-Williams. Noel, you want to keep Noel and Embiid and draft a guard this year to go along with MCW. So that's a team looking going forward. You could keep KJ McDaniels. That's a decent team. Tony Roden gets back from his injury. It's not a bad team. Because if Embiid is what some people say he was the best player in that draft when they took him 3rd, and plus they have Dario Saric, who apparently is crushing it overseas. That's your core, but then you go and trade away 2 of those pieces. So now you have no guard play, and then now Embiid's a big question mark, and Noel is either trade bait or just a defensive kind of traffic cone because he's not very good offensively. So I mean, what is their plan? I would be livid if I was a Sixers fan. I wouldn't go to a game. How do you that organization? Again, I'll bash Dolan with the best of them. There's a plan the Knicks have, and at least they're active and trying to get players to be better. The Sixers, the minute they get a player, they trade him away. So there's my armchair GM moment of the week.
Listen, I completely agree with you. It's borderline scary how incompetent this is.
And it just hurts the league. The product of the league.
And they should know about
been better. Yeah. And it's been awful. There's no other way to put it.
To close the trade deadline.
Right.
Talk.
We got about 10, 15 minutes left.
We got about 10 minutes left. So I wanted to touch on some good old Roger Goodell stuff.
Yeah, we didn't bash him next week.
Because every week we have to find some way to bash Roger Goodell. We're gonna make that a running joke.
What's fine with me?
That's going to be a running gag on the show.
He ran his 56th birthday today, and he ran the 40-yard dash in like five and change. It was on the internet. No, I swear to God, it was on the internet.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Make it 30 mil. Anyway, final trade deadline note. Chad Ford tweeted before, now that it's official, 39 players were traded today and 7 first-round picks. Every single thing that happened today, every single transaction was probably made at some point between 2:15 and 3 o'clock at the deadline. So
no, a lot of them happen after too. Like the trade was.
Well, I know they get announced after because
right.
of the process it takes to actually announce them. But all these transactions probably occurred in an hour span. So looking back on this, the trade deadline days are usually duds. I mean, very rarely do you see a huge wave of stuff happen last
minute.
They were pretty. You usually see
trades.
like every year.
You'll see one decent trade. This year had a lot of decent trades, and a lot of them happened before the deadline too. Don't forget, Rondo was traded, Mozgov was traded, J.R. Smith and Mon Shumpert were traded. There's been a few trades that happened already too.
Right, a lot of B, C level players were moved.
That was something I wanted to get to as well, but I don't want to finish up with this topic. But the two last notes I'll make is that I believe it was Ryan Russillo tweeted about this, and it's true and kind of sad in a way that about 80% 3/4 of the players that were traded today are all pretty much the teams did not want the players. Right. They're all kind of like garbage. No team was going really after a guy. I mean, you could say the Heat went after Dragic. They wanted him. Knight, MCW, those guys are wanted. Those guys are coveted players. KJ McNeil's a coveted player. A lot of really besides that, or teams like Portland getting a Flalo for the playoff push. Teams like those are fun. These are the additions you want to help your team going forward, either in a playoff run or just rebuilding. But a lot of the other guys are all kind of salary dumps or PC had to attach on to a pick or whatever to get it to be a fair trade. So I thought that was kind of sad to look at. And the other thing I wanted to know was we had the whole discussion on Dragic being a top free agent. That's if he doesn't re-sign it in Miami. They now own his bird rights. They can give him that 5th year, which is very important. Which I wanted. I was one of the people who wanted the Knicks to trade for him. I would give up 2018 first and Tim Hardaway to have the 5th year for the bird rights to sign him. I know it's probably in the minority in that, but I want to throw me and Joe are aware that if he does resign in Miami, that the conversation we had is obsolete. But that has not happened yet, and most Knicks fans will probably hope that does not happen in the future. But I think him staying in Miami is probably going to be the option, unfortunately. So I think we've exhausted all our.
We've exhausted a lot of NBA stuff. We got about 7-8 minutes left.
Yeah, we go 10. We'll go to whatever. We'll get it.
We're gonna do this every week. We're just gonna go all over.
No, we're gonna be around an hour this week. Last week was the first. We'll be around. We're around an hour and a half. We'll probably run over with guests and such. If we have a third person on here,
we could be like Monday Night Raw. We could run 5 minutes over the hour.
We can do whatever we want. I mean, once we get the editing and all that stuff down pat, it's not gonna be a problem. But I know the listeners wanted to be short of it. I know we had Eric and Jada say if it was 3 minutes they'd listen to it, but we got a little bit longer than that. But anyway, get to the
Roger Goodell, our boy, back in the news. Are you surprised? I'm not. Deflategate. Not that this is becoming a big issue again, but the NFL refs, one in particular, got his hand stuck in the cookie jar. Allegedly, NFL game balls are supposed to be auctioned off after games as part of a charitable endeavor because the league likes to keep, its positive PR. But a ref had been stealing balls and selling them himself, and he illegally removed one of the balls in the AFC Championship Game. And one of the Patriots, what was it, locker room attendant?
Yeah.
Jim McNally?
Yeah.
Introduced an unapproved ball.
Wasn't it the kicking ball, the K ball?
It was the special teams ball that they used because they said they set off footballs aside on special teams. But anyway, he tried to reintroduce this football into the game, but the ball that was presented to him was essentially presented to him by the ref. So
what game was this?
This was the Colts game. This was the AFC Championship
Right, because
game.
Ryan Grigson, the GM, was the one that tipped him off, apparently, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So basically, if you're attempting to follow this, because this is the most convoluted,
It's
BS,
impossible. It's impossible.
absolutely bizarre thing that's ever happened. So Ryan Grigson and the Baltimore, what's Newsom? No, somebody up high in the Baltimore organization also tipped somebody off too. So, I mean, you look at it, Goodell's refs essentially running the asylum. They're stealing game balls, and you don't know because now this is once again a black eye for the NFL. Now it's not just this, now it's not on the Patriots. Now the heat is back on the NFL.
I mean, at this point, I don't even know what to make of it because the problem is this.
You can't even properly explain this.
The team that was accused of doing it is a team that's also been caught cheating in the past. So, and then the flip side is that the NFL also was just caught, well, not technically caught, but according, 99.9% of the public thinks that the NFL lied over the whole Ray Rice scandal and stuff. So it's not like the NFL probably had its worst PR year ever. And then going to this, you have a team that's been caught cheating, has hated because of that, whether the Spygate or especially with the Aaron Hernandez stuff. It's not really the Patriots' fault, just being associated with that. So and then now this whole Deflategate stuff.
What's even better?
There's no side you root for. That's the problem.
What's even better is apparently this is all on video.
The whole
incident is on video.
Of the
video,
the ball boy or of the ref? The
refs handing the ball to McNally and so I mean, listen, we saw the Ray Rice video and that was something that I didn't want to see. This is something I want to see now. I want to see this. I want to see
the NFL. Well, one thing the NFL's good at is videos that incriminate.
It's like a three-ring. It's a three-ring freaking circus. That's exactly what it is.
Well, when you make that much money, when Goodell gets on his birthday, he said he's getting paid near $40 million to determine his salary today. I guess today was his payday. I don't know why it was in the news. But when you make that much money and you're that powerful and you have the biggest single day sporting event of the year, I mean that's what happens. That's just what happens. You're just that powerful, and then the greed gets to you, and you want to do anything to make your product seem better. And this is what we deal with. And the sad part is, does anyone stop watching NFL? No, that'll never happen.
I'm never going to stop watching. But
no, of course, neither am I. I mean,
this is absolutely.
Do I feel bad for the Patriots? Do I go, oh, poor Patriots for not doing anything wrong and being
right now Robert Kraft
I'm not going to apologize and feel bad for the Patriots. Like they've caught cheating, and I still think they've done some shady things because if it was definitely an NFL problem that the Patriots weren't involved in this whole scheme, then why would people from separate organizations, the Colts and the Ravens, come out and say something? They had to have it on because they know it would get traced back, and they had to have it on good authority. The Patriots did something. It is too convoluted. I don't think it needs to be argued because what it comes down to is the Patriots have done shady things, and I don't put it by them to do something else that's shady. And the NFL, the whole entire season, was covering up one mess after the other. Whether it was domestic violence stuff, the hiding of the evidence, the countless players being arrested and the trials going on. So there's no real good outcome. It's just a bad situation all around. They both did stuff wrong. The NFL has done stuff wrong and will continue to do shady stuff and not be trusted. And the Patriots are probably the least trusted organization in all the NFL. So that's all there needs to be said about it.
Listen, my final take is Robert Kraft is going to expect an apology, and I hope the NFL doesn't give it to him.
No,
this is the one time that I'm on his side.
They're not going to give an apology because they're not going to. Like I said, they're not going to want to take a hit on the shield. They're not going to want to make their product look worse than it is. They're not going to want to say, "Okay, it was our fault. My bad. They didn't do it. They didn't do it for AJ Peterson. They didn't do it for Ray Rice. They're not going to do it now." For the Patriots, who got caught cheating. You won your Super Bowl. That's it. That's all that needs to be said. So, whatever. We're still going to watch it. We're still counting down the days until training camp. That's not going to change.
No, it's not. All right. I mean, I think we're out of time.
We're about an hour right now. Like I said, next week we're teasing. Hopefully, we'll have some more news on other contributors to our whole project, our ongoing podcast, blog, and such. We're going to get this to iTunes as quickly as possible. This will be up on YouTube. Check the page out. It's, what is it? The Twitter handle is...
uppercase D, lowercase N, uppercase S _podcast. I've been live tweeting all night. I've been retweeting stuff. Hopefully, once we get off the ground, give us some questions. We'll give you some feedback.
Yeah, we're gonna
use the hashtag DNS.
We're gonna get hopefully this new equipment here to get our phone lines up and call and ask us stuff. I know we had some good questions. We did have 2 questions, but I think Croft and Vic tweeted us. They said about the Knicks, the Knicks have 29 games left. How many more wins will they'll get with this current lineup? I'd say around 5.
5.
And then Vic tweeted us a hockey question. We didn't get too much of the Rangers today. You're wearing your Rangers shirt. We watched that awful game, lost in the shirt to the Canucks, about how much this, not re-signing Brian Boyle will hurt us. And I said, well, you know what? They picked Tanner Glass, a cheaper option to replace him. That has not worked out. He's been the worst Ranger by far. So obviously we're getting burned by that, especially Boyle's had a pretty good year.
He's a -9 on the team with the best second best plus-minus differential in the league behind Nashville. Everybody on the team has at least a plus, except for Tanner Glass, who's a -9. Which goes to show you how bad he is in comparison to how solid to good everybody else is.
Right. So it's things like that we just did. For Twitter feedback, we'll get to the fans. We want to have people call and want to make it more fun, have more guests, do different variety of shows. I know this week was just mainly NBA because of the trading deadline and the Carmelo Anthony news today, and I happen to work for the NBA, no big deal. But
next week we'll hit on some more topics. We'll get a little more diverse. We'll introduce some more segments, maybe another more armchair GM. Definitely, next week we're going to do 6 to midnight. That's going to be my favorite.
There we go.
Can't wait for that. And next week I'll start off with my monologue, so that'll be good. We'll get a nice little give and go. Well, Eddie will do 1 week, I'll do the next week, so it'll be good. Thanks for listening. I'm Joe. This is our second podcast.
All right, I'm Eddie. See you next week. Calling late nights on Thursday.